If you don't know me, my name's Kindrid. Today I'm going to break down my most recent single called Astral Wandering. Astral Wandering is a track that I made on my Twitch stream back in June originally, and then, morphed it over time, all that. I'm just going to go over everything I can possibly think of having to do with this track. Try to make it short, but you know how these things are. This is a little sample of what it sounds like. If you want to hear the full thing, link down there. You know the deal. Here you go. So yeah, stompy, fun track. I had a lot of fun making this. Very different for me. So just to get right into it, I guess. Let's just do like top down. So first we got sidechain. I sidechain everything to a click. It just makes it easier to organize for me. So we got this click, which is just like, if I open this, it's this rack I made. I have a kick and a snare channel, which are both like the shortest sample of all time. This is literally 10 samples long. And then external instrument to send to the bass group so I can run it into Shaper Box and do this. I'll explain that more later. But yeah, I sidechain to a click, basically. This is here so I can click it and then render the correct amount without Ableton yelling at me. Okay, we got this group. So we got Omnisphere. This is a drone. And then we got like 3 chord layers, right? Right, so we got like, I think this is In Memoriam. This is like the most overused preset of all time. No, it's not. Oh. A Rhodes. We got a piano that's like extremely mellow with a lot of reverb and some soothe on it. I like to put soothe on pianos in like more full, and there's a preset for, there's a preset for it that works pretty well. I like to put soothe on pianos for like more full-fledged productions like this because it just gets like resonant in the low mids, and if you watch it, pulling a lot of that out in like a nice way. And then we got this, whatever the hell this is. Pretty sure I modified that, but I can't remember. And then together they sound like. And then we got this lead. Fun little Omnisphere preset as well. Can you tell I like Omnisphere? Called the Whistler's Bells. Really like that preset. So then together that sounds like this. And then this comes in over here. Which is just a short vocal sample from a different song of mine where she goes E. And then Dimension Expander, Overdrive, Saturator, Semi-Q. Just like cutting out the super highs, getting rid of the mud that this overdrive is creating. Reverb, and then I'm washing it at the end. Like washing it out with a delay. If I turn this back on. There you go. And also a reverb, I guess. And then I'm compressing it for some reason, and then a filter, and then more EQ. So yeah. And then in the breakdown, this is so sporadic, I'm sorry. In the breakdown, we kind of have the same thing. But instead of this layered thing, I just went with this color, and then this like more like upfront sounding piano, I guess. Which is like the one that I normally like to use, the Native Instruments Maverick. It just sounds very natural to me. It sounds like I'm playing a piano, which is the kind of sound I like. Coffee. It do be the afternoon. So yes. And then we add this, which is this arpeggiator that I use too much. Basically, you take a saw with some unison, a square with some unison, and you set it to mono legato, and then you turn on portamento, and it makes this like fun little swoopy sound, and then you put reverb delay on it. And I'm like cutting out a fair bit of the low end because I don't need it here. And then probably the next logical thing to go to here is vocals. These are wonderful vocals from Syberlilly. Her links will be in the down there as well. Just going to go over what I did here really quick. So basically, I have 2 takes lanes for the leads. Takes lanes, words. So we have this one because they run into each other a little bit. Right. So these already sound good, and that's step 1 of processing vocals, is sound good, right? There's already, hold on, sorry. Bonk. These already sound like really smooth. It's easy to work with. What I do with my vocal chain, usually start by cutting out the low end. A bit below the fundamental so it doesn't mess with the phase. I'm using Nectar here, I think, just to do a little bit of pitch correction. She's pretty spot on though, so it like doesn't do very much. And then I cut it again for some reason. This is something I don't do a whole lot anymore, but it sort of does a whole bunch of stuff at the same time. It's kind of like a wideband, like it's kind of acting like Soothe normally does, but it's like a wideband version of it, where it's like doing a DS, and it's also controlling the fundamental and here and the boxy range. Just a little bit, and then after all that, I run it into a 2A, which is a pretty standard vocal compressor. It's doing a fair amount of gain reduction. Right. And then this is a de-esser. Basically what I'm doing here, in lieu of having Pro DS or whatever, you know, Waves 1 or whatever, is you take, and there's like a preset that I started from here, and it's, I'm pretty sure this? Yeah. Basically what you do is in Pro MB, you set this from band to free, and then you can set the frequency range that it like pulls from in order to duck. So it's only taking that part and then it ducks from there. So it's only ducking the entire signal when there's an S or an F or a T, which is what you want. So I like it better when it ducks the whole signal rather than doing, you know, like actual multi-band de-essing. For the most part, I think it sounds more natural that way. You can also just go in and find all of the S's and turn them down, but that's like, you know, a huge pain. And then some saturation, SDRR. This is a very good saturator, and it's very cheap. Klinghelm SDRR. It's like $20 or something. I used the lead vocal preset, and then I modified it slightly. Like I turned the compressor down, like way down. It was like up here or something. And the treble was up more, and some other stuff. It's just like making it sound a little bit more full, giving it that desk tone. And then I did the same thing on the second channel, but with Pro DS for some reason. I clearly did not clean this up enough. Okay, and then those two are running into Soothe to do a tiny bit more de-essing. And to get rid of some of those like top end tones that annoy the hell out of me. Dog. Alright, dog is done. Then a vocal doubler. Isotope vocal doubler, I always use this thing. It's free, it's good. Just to put it a little bit into the sides, so that it's not like dead mono in a stereo signal, because like it just sounds weird like that. Like you need the doubler to be there so it sounds like it's within a space and not like shooting directly into your brain. You know, because like the whole idea of getting a mix right, in my opinion, is like getting it to sound like you're within the space of the song. So this helps achieve that effect. There's a bunch of other doublers you can use. This is free. Sounds fine. Using a Pultec. I don't remember why, but it's doing this. I guess I'm adding some top end. The Pultec top end sounds nice. And then dipping some of this 1K because it's annoying. Just a little bit, and then boosting around it to like compensate, so it's not like doing too much of a wide dip kind of deal. Basically, like if I were to demonstrate, like you can do this, but this is probably going to sound better. I don't know why. It's a very old technique. A lot of people use it. And then this crazy ass EQ, because I was getting really picky about it, to get rid of some of these annoying ass resonances, because I wanted more brightness out of these. I ended up with less overall, but like, you kind of have to be careful with vocals, because when you boost it like this, you end up with this, which is super annoying, in most female vocals. So I had to dip some of that out. And then boost the high end a little bit and get rid of some more of this. And then I cut the low end just to be sure, just because it like gets reintroduced from, you know, saturation and doubling and compression and whatever else. And I don't want that DC offset stuff to mess with my bass, especially in this song, because it's a huge pain. And then we have doubles. Doubles sound like this. How I like to do doubles is obviously take two doubles and then hard pan them. I was using Pro DS, but clearly that is not currently working. So I did it here. I did a 76, slowest attack, fastest release. Fair amount of gate reduction. The thing about these doubles is I want them to interact together, because you can have them just like hard panned. But again, like wanting them to be in a space, you don't want it to be here, you want it to be all here. So we did that. Soothe for more de-essing. The Pultec thing again. Saturn driven a fair bit, just because I like the way that sounds in doubles. You get them very saturated, and then you can push them back. And then also with doubles, I tend to dip out a little bit of the fundamental and a little bit of the high end, so it's occupying this like high mid space. And then this is a VU meter that I'm just using to like pre-level stuff. Just makes my life easier. There's one over here too. I'm just boosting like 3 decibels. It's literally just gain. It's just a different way to look at it. There's an article I'll put in the description on gain staging using a VU meter from a friend that talks about doing that in the digital space. Okay, and then the harmony is basically the same thing, right? But it's like very, very heavy double chorus using the harmony thing in Nectar. Because I just like the way that sounded in this song. Sometimes I'll do the double thing with harmonies as well, but just not in this case. And then this thing... So basically what this is you take the entire vocal, you freeze flatten it, put it on a new track, right? And then you put a reverb, or you reverse it, put a reverb on it, and then re-reverse it. So it's like pre-verbing into it, just because, and then you duck it against the lead, and then it sounds like this. Versus just, you know, straight up dry. It sounds, you know, fine without it. It's like a mixed context thing. And then getting all these together, because there's a bunch of channels and you want them to be like fairly relatively level throughout the entire thing. Right. SSL. And you don't like need an SSL. I just like the way that it sounds. And it does sound different. I did a test on it with my good friend Villager. And it adds harmonics. I don't really know how or why, but it does. So I like the way it sounds. A little bit of gain reduction. A little bit of saturation, just to glue everything together. More death tone. I like the way that sounded here. This is an EQ from TDR called Slick EQ. I really like it for channel strip EQing like this. I just like ran this against something else. This is like, you know, doing wideband EQ decisions on large groups, trying to get things to sit right. I wanted more of this because it sounded present without it sounding annoying, which is like kind of what you get from this upper mid-range, I find. And then I boosted the high end as well using this, and then cut the lows again just to be sure. And again, these decisions were made like while I was doing the mix. So like I wasn't just like sitting here soloing it. It was like I was listening to this. I was like, that needs more mids, that needs more high end. There you go. Did a little bit more group de-essing. I wanted some more high end, so I used this Neve EQ just because it's kind of colored to boost 10K and above. So like... it sounds good. And then one final EQ just to get a little bit more high end and get rid of these annoying things and cut the low end again. And then this Redux and this utility and this auto pan, or for effects at the end over here. You just automate the amount and the rate, and it does that on the auto pan. And then I automated these two things in this. And the gain, for whatever reason. And then you're probably like, where is the reverb? So what I do, and I recommend you do this for vocals, is I use a send. So I sent the leads, some of the doubles. Where did I send it? Some of the doubles, some of the harmonies, and some of this reverse. Actually, I didn't send the reverse. to the reverb, which is here. A reverb 2, Dark Cathedral preset. I really like this reverb. It sounds a little bit less like saturated and colored, but it's very clean. Cutting out the super highs and the lows, because it sounds like you really don't need that in a send reverb. And then I'm sidechaining it to the lead itself so that you could have like a good amount of reverb, but it's not, you know, getting in the way of like the clarity of the lead. And then I did the same thing for delay using Ableton's Echo, which does the job. You can use a colored Echo. I normally don't care, but I like to use like Sound Toys Echo Boy or something like that if I want to. Yep. And then, yeah, so that's the vocal.
Palms of continuums to breathe.
Oh, I forgot, I added this sitar sound, which was a giant pain to get to sound right, but I basically just like soothed the hell out of it. And then put a big reverb on it, Dark Cathedral again, and filtered it. Just because I thought it would sound cool to mimic the bass. Which is probably what I should go over now. The bass is probably the #1 thing I've been asked about while streaming, while messing around with this, because it's kind of crazy. So basically, especially this one, specifically this one, sounds like this. Turn off the sidechain. Okay. So basically, what's happening here is we have one of my favorite sounds in the whole wide world is you take two saws and you FM them against each other. FM them against each other. That is not the right channel. And also some noise. And then you run it into distortion. Wow, gross. Dimension expander, which you could totally do inside Syrup, but whatever. Faturator from Kilohertz. Gross. Saturn. Gross. And then Soothe, because there's like so much high-end disgustingness. Tame it a little bit. And then, this is the cool part. So I did a reverb here. But while I was making it, I was like, I want this reverb to cut out. I want it to be gated. And I was messing with this gate. And so it sounds like this. But I didn't want it to be forever. So I was like, okay, gate time. And then it said this. And I was like, oh. So I basically rendered this over and over and over again. And then it does that. That's super cool. Right. And then I rendered it over and over and over again. And then I freeze flattened it. And then picked two that I really liked. So like this one. And this one. And yeah. That's how I got this sound. Reverb gate. And then from there, I saturated the hell out of the low end. Did some EQing. And then clipped it with a P shaper, and then clipped it again, and then used a VU meter to level all these basses together. Next bass. This thing. This is a fun sound. More FM, probably. Yeah. This is being FM'd by something 2 octaves up, and there's a sub under it. Distortion. This 2 distortion, man, does the job. Dimension expander, and then from there it's like, okay, what kind of sound is this? It sounds like it needs an amp simulator. There you go. And then I filtered out the high end a little bit, filtered out the low end a little bit. Not filtered, cut the low end a little bit. And then did like a more proper EQ. You know, got rid of some of this low mid stuff. Because you don't really want, if you'll notice, like if I turn all that off, you'll notice this is louder than the sub fundamental, which you really don't want. You want this to be the loudest sound in your song in terms of like the frequency spectrum. So yes, that's what this EQ is. And also this is getting rid of DC offset. More AP shaper. I really like this thing. And then a K clip because it was still peaking. And I wanted more clipping. And then VU meter for VU meter reasons. I don't know if I actually kept this on. No, I didn't keep that on. I really need to clean up my projects, dude. Shut up. And then we did wah and wonk. I named these based on what they kind of sound like. Wah, wonk, and then bonk. Bonk. Because it goes bonk. Like the dog with the bat. Anyway, so I started with this sound. Just turn all this off. Started with this, which is a sound that's like I use fairly often anyway. It's a preset I made in Phase Plant that goes bonk. Used the kilohertz frequency shifter to shift it up a little bit because it sounded like atonal, but then when I did that, it shifted the sub. So I was like, okay, I'll just like get rid of the sub. Use the transient shaper to make it less transient-y. I'm not entirely sure why I did that, but I'm also in headphones and I mixed this on monitors, so there you go. But now that I took out the sub, I got to put the sub back. So I used a square wave filter envelope kind of deal, and then I did the thing where you short envelope onto the master tuning. So like without it, it sounds like, but then it sounds like this with it. Wow, it go bonk. And then together, yeah, and then EQ, dimension expander, a gate. I don't remember why there's a gate here. Oh, that's why. Saturn, more EQ, saturation, compress them together, standard clip, and then a VU meter, and then ST4B, which is off, but I really like this thing. I think I used it somewhere else, so I'll talk about it later. That was bonk, and then we got whew. Whew is another, excuse me, Saw and Saw FM. Love the sound. And I made an accident again, where I took this LFO1, or was it that? No, I was trying to do the bonk thing with the master tuning and the short envelope, right? But I made it too long, so it went meow. So it sounds like whew. It's kind of cool. You'll notice that like a lot of what happens with my production is me messing around and then something weird happens and I just like kind of go with it. It do be like that. That's the creative process. For this one, I wanted it to be really aggressive, so I used Decapitator. Woo! And then Ozone 9 Exciter, because I wanted more of that high end. And then I took the low mids and saturated the hell out of them, because I wanted it to be thick. And then I took a delay, because I wanted to do the delay thing. And then EQ. Clean up some of these mids from this Decapitator, because it do be doing a lot. boost the highs and the lows. And then a saturator mostly so I can use the soft clip. And VU meter. So then that sounds like this. Wow, very cool. And then there's this rolly thing, which is like filling in all of the stuff. So, because it sounds like this. And then without it, the track sounds like... Which, like, sure. But then it sounds like this instead. But with sidechain. So this started with this sound. Saw pluck, and I'm using this LFO to like accentuate it every 4 bars or so. Up an octave, and then the phase is set to not be random. And normally I just put this all the way down. But that sounds weird, so I put it off a little bit. This is also... What is... Right. I have this also going to the mix of this. I have a chorus. Low pass chorus. Makes it sound like dark and mysterious and shit. Saturn. You'll notice, I like Saturn. It sounds good. An EQ. VU meter. Right. But then I was running into this problem when I was like car testing it over and over again. So basically, if I just go ahead and pull this up. Right. So, I love this page. C, this song is in C minor. C1, which is the note that all of these basses are playing, is 32 hertz. These monitors, which are Atom A8X, go down to like 38 hertz. Your car speakers go down to like 40 hertz. Like, C is very hard to hear. So you layer it with a C2, which is 65 hertz. And that's kind of like generally the range you want your sub to be in general. But I just layered a higher end note just so it would have that harmonic, so it's like more obviously present within the mix. So it's like literally just another layer, but like 1 and 2 instead of 0 and 1. Very quiet, but it makes a huge difference. I just like turn this back on. Right, so. Right, and then I'm K-clipping them together. Much more present. And then an EQ. That's doing nothing. I guess I was just looking at it. And I like to put a lot of processing on my bass bus now. Just because I can't be bothered to get everything to sound like huge, gigantic by itself, and I don't think it sounds good anyway. So this is doing this, you know, less low and more high end. An ozone exciter. UAD oxide tape, which is a plugin that I really, really like. It just like does the tape thing in the best way, I feel like. Thick. EQ. I don't know why I'm doing this. Sounds good though. Doing the Neve thing again with the high end. Doing the Pultec thing again, but just dipping. Yeah, no, I'm not. Why am I doing that? Oh, to boost the limits. More EQ, just a little bit more of this like less, a little more high thing, and then I'm K-clipping it all together. And then after I clip it, I compress it. Just because it hits the compressor more evenly that way. Yeah, and then I'm using Shaperbox to sidechain. In this instance, I felt it was necessary to have a separate mid and low sidechain, or high and low sidechain, so that I could do this 80% thing, because without it, it sounds like... But with it sounds like... It just lets the, especially the little roller thing through better, I feel like. Now let's go over drums. So we got this kick. This kick is disgusting. The loudest kick of all time. This took a... I really needed something to hit extremely hard for this kick to work in this song. So I spent a lot of time doing this. So we got this Drezzo kick. We got this Deadmau5 kick, just the transient, and we got this No Mana transient. So together that sounds like already hitting kind of hard, but I wanted it to be really specific, so I did a lot of like super specific processing. First of all, gain staging, I turned this down to 8 decibels. Use this UAD, cut a little bit of the mids out, and did the like boosting around the thing. And then I did the UAD thing, or the Pultec thing, sorry, where you basically just boost and attenuate the exact same amount at the low end, and it like takes basically like what it's doing. If I just like duplicate this or something, it's doing this. It sound good. But then like you end up boosting it, so it's like doing this basically. It sounds nice. So yeah, I wanted that in this kick. Little mid cut, and I probably did most of these cuts after I did all of the processing just to make it hit the processing better. Full transparency, this is doing nothing. I soothed a kick. I definitely did this after I put all of the processing on, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. I put a reverb on it. Room sound, I turned KHS stereo on, which is a very nice utility, and just turned the width down. This EQ again, just to do wideband EQing, so I don't have to look at it. Get some high-end transient out of it, cut the mids a little bit. And then I did the transient shaping thing. Basically what I'm doing here, you set the attack to 30, and then you set the threshold to like give you this much gain reduction. So then it's like shaping the transients doing that. So it's leaving the part of the transient there, but it's not like leaving the rest of it there. And then I pushed it into the sock clipper. More EQ. I did this. This is something I learned from Bentley Dean. If you do a linear phase brick wall at like 20 hertz or something on your kicks, it cleans it up a lot. It just sounds tighter. I don't know why. AP shaper. Now it's clipped. Yeah. And then more clipping. Because AP shaper doesn't really catch all of it all the time. And I wanted it to catch that little tiny transient. So this is why I use the soothe here. So if I turn this off and then turn it on, rules are good. Generally, don't use soothe on your kick, but in this instance, kind of made sense. So, yeah, that is a big kick. And then there's a ride loop from Noizu, and that's like literally all of the drop drums. In the breakdown, we have this thing. Which is another loop. Normally I do more drum bus processing. In this instance, I didn't because it's literally the kick and the noise ride loop. So we did this. I distorted it. Barely. EQ. Because that's what I wanted out of it. My favorite thing in the world. This is a delay that's doing something cool over here. Oh wait, I moved it over here, right? That's like one of those keep you occupied because you're making EDM things. And then I compressed it with Faraday limiter, which I love to death. Use KHS stereo to turn the width down a bit from the ping pong. And then an EQ, and then an EQ that I automated for some reason. Oh, right, because I put it over here too, right? And that's being sidechained. And then we got this comes in. AP Shaper is clipping it. I don't remember what preset this is, but it do sound good, huh? And then I'm clipping it again with medium curve. I put crystallizer on it. Which is barely doing anything, but it sounds cool. And then this reverb. And then I cut some of this high end out, and then I cut it again. And then I cut it again. I really did not clean up this project. And then we have a clap doing this. And then a snare doing this. And those like syncopate against each other. And then this taiko, which you can barely hear. And then altogether that sounds like... Right. So yeah. That's the song. And this is the master. I realized 2 hours later that I forgot I wanted to do this. I forgot I wanted to go over the master. Okay, so basically, I do my masters separately in separate projects for a couple of reasons. One, so I stop micromanaging the shit out of everything in the project. And two, so I have more CPU headroom for some of these really demanding plugins. So, obligatory, I do masters for $50. I'll do stem masters for $100. Just DM me on Twitter, email my email that I have listed there. I don't care. I will do it for you, and I will do it really fast. This is my general process. It depends on the track. So, it sounds like this. Cool. Generally, I go to the loudest part of the song over here. Loop it. Cool. And then we got an SSL. So the SSL's sound in terms of mastering is sort of like controlling. It sort of like brings everything together in a way. Different compressors, like vintage compressors like this, have different sounds. SSLs are nice for mastering. It's like hard to describe, but it basically like reins everything in. Just the slightest bit. Then I'm using this UAD Studer A800. It's a nice tape emulation. I like it better for mastering than the Oxide. It's more subtle. Add some of that tape saturation, some of that low end, some of that high end. Using TDR Slick EQ M to do EQ things. Boosting the sides on the highs, cutting it on the lows, doing an EQ. Usually I use Smart Ops, which is like basically something that you can load a reference in. These are the ones that I like the most. And you get an EQ curve based off that reference, and it's not too aggressive, and you can change it afterward, and you can do a lot of warning that way. It sounds like this. I also use some of this high frequency exciting. I used a little bit of soothe on just the high end. And then this is my limiter chain. So I use the Weiss MM1. Nice maximizer, it kind of pulls everything up, which is why I use it. Use the TDR limiter 6GE just to use the clipper. Getting like 1 to 2 dB of clipping out of it, so that I can set it up for the limiter. That's probably more limiting than I'd normally do, but I kind of wanted it to be obnoxiously loud. But anyway, oh, and I usually set it to minus 0.1 decibels, set the oversampling on, and turn true peak off, because true peak kind of ruins your transients when you're pushing it this hard. If you're doing something very soft, true peak is fine. It's not going to necessarily be the biggest issue in the world, as long as like the system that you're playing it on is gain staged properly and other things, and you have a tiny little bit of headroom so it's not clipping when it's transferring to MP3. But even then, you know, you're clipping anyway, so who cares? But yeah, that is the master for the song. I'm sure I missed some stuff. If you have any questions, I am green. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer as many as I possibly can. Go listen to my song. It's out now. Thanks, bye.